I've cheated again. I've used the big plane at work. It was quicker than doing it by hand. So the first thing I need to do with this is figure out which way up it's going to go. I like to have the grain oriented so that it's like an upside down V on the outer laminates. You can have it the other way. It's as long as they're opposing each other, it's still going to be stable. I personally like the way the grain looks when it's running out into the sides of the neck. So obviously you've got your radial lines in the grain, and when you get the harder edge running to the side of the neck, it just kind of gives cleaner lines all the way up, rather than seeing kind of... I mean, it's entirely based on personal preference. I like it like this. So I do the same if I was doing, say, a Fender style one-piece neck from a flat sawn board. I'd have the apex of the curve, because there's always going to be some curve to the grain. I'd have that to the fretboard side so that the grain was running out to the sides. The term run out is probably not the right one, because that would suggest that it's coming out of the side of the neck there. I know what I'm talking about. Hopefully you guys do too. But I've already decided which is going to be my top side. I've checked the end grain, and I have also marked on my centre line. It's quite easy to do that with a laminate like this. I like to use a centre finding ruler because it's a lazy option. A protractor has a centre finding ruler built into it, basically, or you can sit and measure and do the maths, and then use a straight edge and just mark all the way down. That made a cool noise. But what I need to do is transfer all the measurements from my drawing. So I've got my headstock, I know where my nut is, and then I've got the scale length, so I know where my body joint is going to be before I can do anything on this. So I think that's the next task. Luckily, I haven't put my drawing away because I knew I was going to need it. So let's clear some space and we'll get on with that. Now I need to get my truss rod jig and start making some dust. It's a baptism of fire for my new hoodie. You too can look this cool. With very little effort, to be honest. So I need to attach this template to my neck. Masking tape and super glue. useless. And since these are never coming out, I'm just going to put them straight in with a bit of super glue. If you've routed the slot properly, you shouldn't need to tap it in with a hammer, which means that you shouldn't really need to risk the super glue splattering out into your face. However, it will be snug, so if you're pushing it down, it might spray a little bit. I tend to treat my glasses as eye protection. I probably shouldn't do, and it gets quite expensive if I get nice glasses because they always end up with some super glue spatter on them. And then eventually I can't see, and then I have to buy new glasses. But I think we got away with it this time. So to do this, I'm going to... I could use the bandsaw, but I'm not sure how confident I am in the bandsaw's ability to cut a straight line at the moment. I could use the table saw. In fact, I think I'm going to have a look and see if the bandsaw will cut on the outside edge of this line, and then I'll attach this to a known straight edge template, and I'll run it over the router table and just clean up the edge that way. I haven't done it that way for a while, so I fancy doing something different. I've drawn on my taper, obviously, so I'm just going to be following the outside of those lines, try and get as close as I'm comfortable, so that the router doesn't have as much work to do. Let's go! Perfect. And this time I mean it. That really is perfect. So we've got a tapered neck blank here. Some really nice flame showing up in the roasted maple. Carbon fibre and truss rod are in. I've continued to taper right through to the end of the headstock, which, considering I started with quite a thick blank, I could have not done that, and I wouldn't have to attach as much in the way of ears, but I quite like to add some laminates along the side and keep the tapers going, which in this area, when I do my cutaway to what's underneath the veneers, that kind of usually the taper that's running along here runs straight through the middle of the 4th Avenue inlay, and I like the look of that. And from the back, obviously the tapers continuing with the taper of the neck just looks extra cool. So at some point I will need to add ears onto this and bring the headstock out to thickness, but for now what I really need to do is cut the face away and create the angled plane that's going to be the headstock. I prefer angled headstocks to the setback fender type. Just... I don't really know why. I just do. I can put a veneer on them a lot easier than having to kind of curve it into this bit. And I like veneers on them. So I've actually measured and drawn on a line at an angle here. I'm going to go for about a 14mm thick headstock. On top of this there will be, I think, 4 veneers to make up the similar kind of look to the laminates in here. So that's going to be about 2mm. So I need to take this a little bit deeper. So I'm going to take it down to about 12mm so that it'll come up to the final 14. So first of all I need to take it to the bandsaw. Hopefully I can take you with me to the bandsaw, but at the minute every time I move the camera it seems to like move my power supply and cuts out. So we'll see how that goes. If the next thing you see is bandsaw footage, then it worked. If the next thing you see is me here grabbing a plane, then it didn't. Fingers crossed. Well, it would appear I was wrong. The camera stayed working for my trip to the bandsaw and then decided to die when I got back to the bench. So you didn't see the plane. Rest assured, I have planed the angle into this headstock face. I need to add ears onto here and drill access for the truss rod, do all of those things, put veneers on the face, but before I do that I need to mark my dimensions on the side of here and probably trim it down to size. It's much easier to trim things like the thickness of your headstock when you've got a flat surface rather than chunks of wood glued in here and a big void here. It's much easier on the bandsaw. So I need to reference my drawing and get some measurements drawn on. I think the first thing I'm going to do is figure out where I'm going to join the body so I know where the heel will be and where all the transitions need to work from.